Hi friends, now let us take up the third concept in our CFG web series. This is understanding input, process and output, simply IPO activities. You must have a clear understanding over this before entering into programming. Before this, I would like to tell you one thing. Already two concepts are over. You thoroughly watch and understand each and every concept. From the beginning, I am advising you one thing. Don't be either lazy or over smart. If you are in that category, you never evolve as a programmer. You may get some marks in your examination, but you never evolve as a professional programmer. Don't be lazy. Just I am explaining 5 concepts. I am not dumping any concepts and all that. Second concept, actually it is almost 20 minutes. You watch every bit and understand everything. Whatever you missed here, you cannot get it. You cannot get it. It will be reflected somewhere in your understanding. That's why don't be lazy. Just a matter of 1 hour, not even 1 hour, less than 1 hour. If you watch the training session 1, concept will be over. Thereafter, you enter into the programming domain, and thereafter, after 3 hours, you will be in a position to develop projects, whatever I showed you. Mark report like projects you can develop, 50 to 100 lines of projects on your own in a professional approach. You can develop. Okay, now let us focus on IPO activities. Actually, IPO, these are very core activities in real life or in programming. These activities are present in every process. Let's take an example. You go to your neighboring flour mill. This is your neighboring flour mill, and here you give some input. Input here one slot is there. From this slot you give grain. Grain here everything is processed. Thereafter you get the output flour. Flour as the output. Here you give grain, that is the input, and this is I. And inside grinding is done, that is process, and ultimately you are getting flour, that is the output, IPO. Any system, whatever system you see in the real life, suppose you take a juicer. Here, what is the input? You give fruit pieces as the input, and inside those are crushed and the juice is prepared, and ultimately you get juice. This is the output. This is uh, this is the way. Any system, whatever system you see in the real world, you give some input, inside process is done, ultimately output is generated. And natural system, you take your brain. You take your brain. This also, suppose one example I give you. On August 1st, Sunday. August 1st Sunday, and September 1st, which day? August 1st Sunday. This is a question. You give input to your brain. Input to your brain, and you are asking your brain what is the day on September 1st. Okay, this is the input. What your brain does? Your brain does the process. How it process it? Just according to a logic. Suppose 1st August Sunday, 8th Sunday, 15th Sunday, 21st Sunday, 28th Sunday. So then 29, 30, 31st, 3 days. So 1st September is Thursday. Like that, one logic it applies. It applies whatever logic you know, that it applies, and ultimately it gives on September 1st is a Thursday. Okay, this is the process. This is the process, and in this way, your brain also IPO. It functions. Because of that, for all your questions, you get answers. For everything, every minute, every second, your brain takes some inputs and makes process and gives the output. That point you have to understand. So, in programming also, programming is not different. Programming also, input, process and output is there. So that already one mark report program I showed you. In that I take a few data items and show you how input process, how IPO is implemented in your program. Actually, in that program, in input section is called a reading section. A reading section, you are entering your marks. There are three papers in that example. There are only three papers. Now let us enter the marks. First paper 55, second paper 45, third paper 50. Now the student got marks percentage 55 in the first paper, 45 in the second paper, and 50 in the third paper. Okay. Now this is the input. This is I. This is called reading section. Reading means we enter data, and your program takes this data and stores in the memory containers. Okay. Thereafter, what is done? What you ask, you want to print total marks. I am not talking about everything. In your marks report, part of the marks report, one item is total marks. Total marks. In order to calculate total marks, what you are doing? Marks 1 plus marks 2 plus marks 3. You are doing. This is called processing. Using a formula, you are calculating it. In turn, what is that? 150 is stored here. 150 is stored. This is process. What this process is called? Process. Thereafter, okay, this is 150 is stored in the memory. Stored in the memory. Then what is the use? You cannot see that. In order to make it visible, what should you do? You have to display it on the monitor screen. Your flour mill, a flour mill example you take, flour mill grinds your grain and keeps it inside. What is the use? So that should be pushed out. Then only it is output. Okay. In the same manner, actually according to this formula, and total marks are calculated, and this is stored in the memory. Thereafter, you want to see that. If you want to see that, in order to make it visible on the monitor screen, the output process should be done. Then this is that. So what are the activities? What your program is doing? Mainly there are other things also. Little later I will explain. Mainly three sections are there. Input section, that is called reading section. Second one is processing section. There some formula we write depending on the problem, and that is called, according to formula, required values like total marks are calculated, and that is process, that is process section. And the third one is output section. Output section, whatever result you are expecting from the program, that is displayed on the monitor screen, that is output section. So any program or project you take, the main statements are divided into three groups: input section, process section, and output section. Input section is called a reading section. Output section is called writing section.